Hi, so today we're going to be interviewing Mr. Johnston on the sacrament of the Eucharist. So, Mr. Johnston, do you have any thoughts about, what's your overall knowing about the sacrament of the Eucharist?
Do you want to ask the first question there? Okay, let's go first question.
First question. How does the belief of transubstantiation, a miracle in itself, impact the way you live your day-to-day life?
For me, transubstantiation is the most important part of Mass and our faith. It's a reminder of the sacrifice that Christ made, the ultimate sacrifice. And in terms of transubstantiation itself, it relies on faith, and faith is also at the heart of our beliefs.
In what ways have you grown closer to God by consuming the Eucharist?
For me, the biggest thing would be the idea of sacrifice. And sacrifice the word sacrifice gets me to kind of look at all the things that other people in my life have sacrificed. Maybe it's my parents. Maybe it's the sacrifices that I make for my children or my family or other things in my life. So that idea of complete sacrifice and passion for a cause, that's what the Eucharist for me represents. And that I need to have that appreciation for sacrifices, not only that are made for me, but for me to be willing to make sacrifices and having passion for my life.
To do to prevent the sacrament of Eucharist from becoming routine?
That's a good question, because it can be, because we go to Mass every week. I think most of our students and faculty go to Mass a couple times a week. I think the reminder of what it symbolizes and what it stands for, and it's why we go to Mass. That's what makes Mass Mass, is a component of transubstantiation. So the idea of sacrifice, and the idea of how blessed we are that sacrifice was made.
Although Catholic sacraments aren't based on human emotions, what did you feel when you first obtained the Eucharist?
For me, I actually remember it kind of clearly. Back in the good old days at Good Shepherd, that's what the school I was at the time. I got my first communion. It was excitement, for sure, just because you guys remember how you prepare for it and the education that goes into it and the awareness. And it was kind of an opportunity to fully participate in Mass, because there's a reason why you wait, because you need that knowledge and that understanding. When you have that knowledge and understanding, you have a deeper grasp of how sacred Mass is, how sacred communion is, how sacred the Eucharist is, and to get to fully participate in it. I remember the excitement.
How has your understanding of the Eucharist changed since your first communion?
That's a good question too. Understanding the Eucharist for me, I look at my son and daughter who both have received their first communion, and when I go back to when I received my first communion, I just think that the depth of your knowledge and experiences, from when I was 8 years old to being 43 years old right now, experiences in life, deeper and richer understandings of your faith, and what it means to have faith, and the mystery that comes along with faith. It's just a much richer appreciation that your life experiences bring.
is your best experience with the sacrament of the Eucharist?
My best experience so far has been my son's and daughter's first communion.
What do you think is the ideal way a new or religiously uneducated person could understand the importance of Eucharist?
Newly religious? Do you mean religiously uneducated in terms of religion? I would discuss the symbolism of it and what it stands for, because somebody that doesn't understand would say, what's the big deal? You're eating a piece of cardboard bread and drinking cheap wine. That would be the uneducated, unreligious component of it, somebody that doesn't get it. I think the explanation of what it symbolizes and what makes it sacred, that the bread is the body and the wine is the blood. I think that's something that would allow those people to understand.
Do you do anything special to prepare for the Eucharist on Sundays?
I mean, at Mass, it's a part I prepare for just by being solemn and reverent, and a reminder just of what it stands for and what I'm receiving each time I receive it.
How would you convince a non-practicing Catholic to return to the sacrament of Eucharist?
That's a good question. I mean, first of all, somebody would have to, probably approach me and ask me about it. If they did, I probably wouldn't try to convince them. I would just merely share what it means to me and why I receive the Eucharist. And if they're a non-practicing Catholic, that may serve as a reminder of maybe something that's missing for them, or why they might want to return to it.
And finally, have you been to adoration? If so, what do you think adoration has to offer to a Catholic?
I have been to adoration. I don't go regularly. They used to have it. They used to have it at our parish, Our Lady of Grace. They used to have it, I think it was throughout the night, and they'd have people supervise it hourly. I've taken my kids a couple times before. What adoration offered for me is silent time of reflection in a sacred setting. And that all leads to reflection, appreciation, and the opportunity to see the role and think about the role that faith plays in your life. You're basically creating an area where you can do that. Because in the regular hustle and bustle of life, it's tough to stop and do that sometimes. Adoration, that's what you're there for. You're not talking to the person next to you. You're not playing with your cell phone. You're not listening to music. You're sitting there, alone with your thoughts, and you have a chance to reflect, and that's very valuable.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston.
Thanks for having me, big guy.
All right, so we're back here again with Mr. Johnston for part 2 in the interview. So, Mr. Johnston, for the first question, many people refuse to drink from the chalice during communion for sanitary reasons. Do you personally drink from the chalice? Why or why not?
I do not drink from the chalice. I always used to, but I would say up until about, I don't know, it's been several years now I don't, and it is for sanitary reasons. Yeah, it's just for sanitary reasons.
Second question. In the Catholic faith, sacraments build on each other. What period of time do you think is ideal to receive the Eucharist without receiving the sacrament of reconciliation?
Can you explain that one?
How long do you think it should be in between reconciliation?
I can't think of an ideal time, but given that the Eucharist is a reminder of God's grace and sacrifice, I think it needs to be an amount of time that you can recognize and appreciate what it stands for. And that comes with maturity, the religious education you're receiving through school, through CCD, whatever it is. But it really comes down to if you're mature enough and you've got the instruction to understand what and why it is you're doing what you're doing, to be reverent and embrace it, then I guess technically it would vary from each individual, from one individual to another, just like anything.
Do you think the roots of tradition of the sacrament of Eucharist is important to the average Catholic? If so, how does it change one's point of view?
I think the roots of all the traditions are important because it goes back to why you're doing something. And if you look at weekly mass, it's obviously a time to give thanks. But the reason we give thanks, the Eucharist is a reminder of the sacrifices, God's sacrifice and also God's grace. So I just think if you're grounded in that concept on a regular basis, you're going to get a lot more out of the Eucharist. And it is easy to forget.
Knowing you have children that receive their first communion while young, do you agree with the age of reason at age 7, or why or why?
What's the reason you're giving for age 7? Or are you just asking about the number?
That's the age of reason. That's the age where a child can officially receive the first communion.
Right. But in terms of like that being, I think
old enough or too young.
It once again depends on the individual. They need to understand why they're receiving it. They need to be educated on what it means and what it stands for. I think if they don't understand that, they shouldn't receive it. But I also think it's an opportunity to allow kids at a younger age to fully participate in Mass, and communion equals full participation. So, and I do know that there is anticipation and excitement leading up to First Communion, but just like something like Christmas, it's important to understand why you're receiving it and what it means. Obviously, for somebody like myself, or when you're 16 or when you're 18, you're going to have a different understanding than you did when you're 7. But I think it's a good time to start. And it's our job too, for other people, to model how that works. Like take Mass in our school. You know what I mean? If guys are running around talking, goofing around on their phones during communion, and a 7-year-old sees that, that's going to set an example for how to perceive the sanctity and reverence of communion time.
The sacrament of Eucharist nurtures the soul and gives us grace. How is this made apparent in your everyday life?
Grace to me is the concept that even though we're imperfect and you make mistakes, grace is the idea that there's that you can move on in spite of that, and that's what God's grace is to me. So, if it weren't for that concept of God's grace, I think you might get stuck in your wrongdoings and the times you slip up. You get stuck in that instead of being motivated and reminded to move forward in spite of our shortcomings. Yeah, we're all going to have shortcomings. That's a given. Grace inspires me to plow through them and to want to become a better person because of them. God's grace.
The word Eucharist is literally defined as Thanksgiving. What does this mean to you, and how does this affect the meaning of Eucharist?
For me, Thanksgiving is kind of, that should be kind of at the core of our faith and our lives. When I go to Mass and celebrate the Eucharist in communion with other members of the Catholic community, it's a reminder of what you're thankful for. Typically, when I go to Mass, I'm there with my family. It's a time to reflect on the gospel. It's a time to reflect on the homily, and maybe there's some piece of insight or question or explanation of something that gets you to think. But just the constant reminder of going back to the fact of everything that you have is something that you should be thankful for.
Have you ever felt doubt or indifference to transubstantiation that occurs in the Eucharist? If you did, how did you overcome this?
I think there's always, not always, but I think doubt is a real thing for a lot of people. I don't think doubt's a bad thing. If I doubt something, it always takes me back. It makes me examine it closer. And if examining something closer was revealed some level of disbelief, then I wouldn't have my faith. The closer examination typically reaffirms and strengthens my faith. So I think doubt. I think you have to have. I think doubt strengthens faith.
What do you think will change in the future experiences with the sacrament of Eucharist? Your person.
What'll change in the future? I think my life and my experiences. So, your daily life, your daily experiences will always shape your approach to the Eucharist. Jesus, your faith is the. Jesus is the given. Our life, our experiences are the variables, and that the way that your faith plays a role in how you deal with trials in life, deal with success, deal with loss. So I would say my daily experiences in my life will affect how I approach the Eucharist.